I don't think you needed to do this. And this, like, I try to discourage this anytime I can. A lot of people are going to be like, camping's like a legitimate strategy. Like, you weren't losing, like, the game that bad, really. And like, if you were, it's your own mistakes, right? So I think a lot of people camp because they make tons of mistakes and they get rewarded by doing so. I don't know that I would have done this. Would the game maybe would you maybe have lost? Potentially, but maybe that's something that you need to figure out in terms of like the mistakes you're making instead of like making a ton of mistakes and then camping and then being like, oh, I played well, you know. Oi, 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 YouTube. It's good to see you today. Look, we're not live today. It's been release week, which means we've been playing a lot of the new DLC and we haven't been able to do a gameplay review. So today we are bringing you a gameplay review. This is a Pinhead review. You guys over on YouTube, you saw that I was looking to review more of your matches and you hopped into our Discord and you submitted quite a few games for us to go through. So that's what this is today. And if you personally watching this, if you're watching this, you guys could submit your gameplay. Just go to the link in the description, go to our Discord, there's a DBD match review section. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just fully kind of dive right in here to what this sort of is, and let's take a look here. All right, we got Pinhead on Badham Preschool. It's gonna be a tough map. I mean, Badham's never necessarily easy. There are certain killers that can obviously do okay here, right? But this is a really pretty strong survivor map. This configuration definitely is tough. We do have corruption, so we have corrupt. We have surge, we have deadlock, and save the best for last. Not a bad build. Kind of a triple slowdown. Perchance a little unnecessary. Anytime I see triple slowdown, I always wonder what skills could we you know, learn better to not need triple slowdown. We got one survivor. Not bad. Caught him fairly early. It was really, really close. To be honest, so when it comes to Pinhead, I think you have to pick and choose your battles with chains. I think this was a good idea. I think the problem here is like, I would have started sending out the cast here. It's kind of reaction time. This isn't the worst thing in the world, but like once you're like right here, it may be best just to like, because the whole wall of the map is here, it may be best to like try to pressure her and send the chain through the wall after she's vaulted than to like send it, miss, and then she gets to make distance. You know, obviously you can't tell the future, but you know, this was a really good attempt, to be honest with you. Good job. Good job pushing her towards that outside edge. I think it maybe would be really beneficial to be like kind of moonwalking this a little bit. I mean, these are long walls that the survivor could just run. But I think right here, what I would have done is like showed the red stain here. Like show the red stain and then moonwalk back, right? Because I mean, really what you're trying to do is like get the survivor to mess up just enough so you can get closer, right? Like you just want to get like just little bits of, you know, just little closer. So I would have moonwalked this instead of like going all the way out and around. Because now what she can do if she really wants to is like go into the House of Pain or like go back to Shack. So it would have been better, I think, to push her down that wall than to like push her this way. But you know, you can't tell the future. Can't mind read. There you go. This was a good play right here. Double and back a little bit. Ooh, that's tough. Yeah. When you send out the chain, you have to send it out and whip it around really quick because the survivors just make distance. The more time you're standing there not sending the chain, it takes a lot of practice though. It takes a lot of practice. It's like Nurse. If you're good at Nurse, you can be good at Pinhead. Oh God, that's unfortunate. That is deeply unfortunate. That's not even your fault. That's just game bug. Oh my God, she gave it up though. There you go. I wouldn't teleport. Yeah, I think that's smart because what they're doing is they're opening the box where all the corrupt gens are. And right now you definitely just need to get a hook. 3 gens are corrupted right now because of corrupt intervention. And then somebody's solving a box. So like, who's solving the box right now? Let's take a look. Let's go back just a smidge. So right now Ace is on a box, which means only 2 people are on gens, which, you know, is better than 3 people being on gens. So, you know, not the worst thing in the world. Not too bad. The one thing I'll say is I think you took a little bit of time at the beginning of the match to look at like the 3 gen and the landscape of where all the generators were. I would yeah, I would be a little more aware of that, but you are definitely controlling like the stronger side of the map for you, I think. Even though it does include the House of Pain, I think main building's way worse than House of Pain if survivors are smart. You're gonna try to stop him. Fortunately, you can't, but you can drop down, get a free hit. He's gonna... Oh, he didn't stay on it. I figured he'd stay on it. Somebody may come back and try to finish it. It looks like you're aware that they may come back and try to finish it. Good. What you did that's really smart here is that... I don't know why we swung. Did we hear something? I think you saw the bloodstain was pretty, like, opaque, and I think you went for a swing assuming they had been around the corner. So what you didn't do, though, and this is really smart, is you didn't kick the gen. What a lot of survivors do, or I'm sorry, what a lot of killers do is they'll see a gen at like 90%, and they're like, oh god, I don't want that gen to go. And so they'll kick it, which takes, what, 2.6 seconds? And the whole time they're kicking it, survivors are running away, right? And they completely get away from you. And then the minute you walk away to go find where they were, somebody hops back on the gen. And instead of being at 90%, it's like, oh, it's now at 88%, right? It takes a lot of time for a gen to regress. A gen that's this far along takes like 4.5 minutes. It's a little more than that, but it takes like 4 minutes. So it's about, a minute and 25 seconds to regress at 25%. You would have to literally just stand near this gen for a long time to get any decent regression. So what I mean to say in all this is you did a really good job at not just like kicking the gen. You're actually just trying to keep the pressure on the survivors. There's the ace. Good job. Oh my god, you're just getting very unlucky with these. He is running. I don't know that I would drop down. Did he stay here? No, he went all the way through. Yeah, I heard him run under you. So what I would be very careful. But when you were breaking the pallet, I think I heard him run like under you, which to me indicates that he ran all the way through. So yeah, right here, I think he went this way, which means he would be more by the staircase. This is kind of a crapshoot. You're just like guessing a little bit, but I can't tell because we didn't look to see if there was a lot of blood or not. For all we know, maybe he just quick and quieted into a locker. So it's tough. I wouldn't stick around here too much. You definitely don't want to squander too much time. Oh, there, he's healed. Okay, there you go. There's another pallet that's very strong here. See what I talked about earlier? Main building is just difficult. So one thing I would work on is Pinhead, and it's not going to be the strongest thing in the world, but I would get very, very used to if you know a survivor's getting to a pallet, like right here. You know he's going to a pallet. Right here, you should be casting through the wall and chaining him up so that like when he throws the pallet, he still has to struggle to get away. He'll just make less distance, right? You don't want to try to send the portal once he's throwing the pallet. You want to send the portal preemptively, if you will. You want to guess that he's going to throw this pallet, which, to make sense, he would be. So if you were to chain him right now, so say the portal spawns and the chains come out, right? You're going to break this pallet, which will take 2.6 seconds. It'll take him probably about 1.5 seconds to break all the chains. That's not bad. I mean, that's better than nothing, right? It saves you 4 meters of distance. But see, now you've wasted time trying to send the portal, and he's made distance, and now you're breaking it, right? Like, so you have to be able to predict, like, oh, he'll probably throw it, so I need to send a portal now, right? Just to slow them down a little bit. I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure what happened there. Good job. This is really smart. So a lot of people would see the box getting worked on, and I think they would teleport to it. I think you really need to get another hook state. So I wouldn't teleport either. This is smart. Oh, there's a little lag there. It looks like. I can't tell if that was you or Ace, but Pinhead can do Shack, so you just got to be careful here. Yeah, I don't know that that was the play. So when it comes to Shack, I think your best option is to, unlike Nurse, right? So like, let's draw Shack out here. So we'll draw Shack. That's a really bad Shack. All right, there we go. It's a little bit better. So this is the Shack you're in right now, where this is the door you're at. I think with Pinhead, if the survivor is like here, I think you have to predict, right? With Nurse, a lot of the times with Nurse, right, because you get 2 blinks, a lot of people would like blink and then blink, right? So that the survivor doesn't double back too hard, or they would even blink to the doorway and then blink a second time, right? I think with Pinhead, you have to be a little bit more predictive because he does send out a projectile that can have some maneuverability. I think with Pinhead, it's slightly different, right? So if Ace is like somewhere in this area, right? You know he's somewhere around here. I think your best option as Pinhead would be to get to about here, send the portal, and then send the chain. And the idea with this is you kind of need to learn to cut them off, and you want to oversend the portal a bit because you want the chains that pop out of the portal. So say the portal does spawn right here, right? The chains that pop out of the portal need to tether in a way that is hard to break, right? So what I mean by that is, say you do send a portal like right, I don't know, say things are slightly different. Say Ace is here. You send a portal here, and then this tethers. Boop, boop, boop. All Ace has to do is like get around this corner, and then all three of these chains will break. Will other chains try to respawn and get him? Yeah, but he could hit the window by then or do something else, right? So when you're shooting out the portal, you have to kind of predict a little ahead of the survivor, but you also want to try to be sure you're not sending chains to an area where they are easily broken, right? So you want to send the portal out here, and then the chains would be a little bit better off, even if they spawn like this, right? So say they spawned in a way that was like this, it's still very difficult for him to deal with. And if he were here even, right, you would want to send the portal to be out here, because at that point, again, even if the chains did this, well, only one of those chains is going to break on the corner, right? If he goes around the corner, only maybe one of these is going to break on the corner, and the other two he'll have to actually get off. So you kind of want to overshoot the portal past the area. You don't want the portal to sit right next to walls. It's easier for it to break. Again, takes a lot of practice, prediction, and knowledge of like the map. But oh, that was rough. Ooh. Always assume they have dead hard. So I think you really could have got him here. So I think short loops with Pinhead are like your best friend. So this was super close. He dead-hearted. You weren't going to hit anyway, but he dead-hearted anyway. But this is exactly where you could have absolutely crushed this Ace. So right here. So let's draw this loop a little bit. So say we got like some... Actually, let's make it... Black will be a little harder to see, so I'm going to try to like color it in a bit. But so this is kind of the short side. Here's the palette. And then here's, some more junk, if you will. We'll try to just kind of color that in. Anyway, so Ace is right here right now, yeah? And you are right here. What you could do as Pinhead is push him, right? Just push him a little bit. Send the portal. So send a portal right here, right? Well, sound effects included. And then as he walks through, right? The idea is you've pressured him to drop the pallet, right? So you're kind of hoping a little bit, but what you do is you send the portal out, and if he does go to like right here, right, and you're right here, so you got the portal, what would happen is he gets tethered by chains, and he throws the pallet down. I've seen this happen so many times. And at this point, he can either slow vault the pallet, he has to slow vault, or he tries to break the chains and you get the M1. So the idea is to not only moonwalk this, right? Which is like a standard killer thing to do, right? You moonwalk around stuff. But you send the portal out to slow him down so that your moonwalk is twice as effective. Now, typically as Pinhead, you actually want to do all of this from inside of the pallet. So instead of chasing him around the outside edge of the pallet, the better play would be to actually, like, when he goes here, so watch this. So when he's here, it would be better for you to step into the pallet, send a portal out here, and chain him, boop, 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 and then you just go and hit him, right? So you maybe you show your red stain here. And typically what I do is I'll show my red stain one direction. It'll make him kind of like double back a little bit. While I'm showing my red stain, I'll send a portal. The portal will chain him. And then he can't use the pallet to get away. He can't throw the pallet preemptively or early drop it. So then I just moonwalk at him and I would get the hit. So remember as Pinhead, you kind of want to, it's like a pig dash, if you will, right? But it's like way better, is you want to put yourself in where the pallet is and then send your portal out you know, and tether the ace and then get him, right? Because once he's slowed down, this is such a short loop that all you have to do is walk around, get the M1. Easy down. That was a lot of explanation, but like Pinhead destroys these kinds of loops so well. This is smart. You have gotten a pallet out of the way. You've gotten like 4 pallets out of the way. I think you could have got the down on the ace a little bit sooner. You don't know what you don't know, but you are breaking away saying, you know what, he's near Shack. It's too strong. Let's just go somewhere else. So deadlock is in effect right now. You have hooked the Nancy before, so this is actually not the worst thing in the world. This pallet is broken. Okay, so I would be very careful here. This pallet's broken. There's really no need to chain her, in my opinion, because you could get this hit before, like, if you were just walking forward, you could have M1'd her, like, right as she hits the stairs. Like, there's no need for the chains. So be careful not to overuse them, right? They're really fun to use, but, like, it didn't do anything, right? If nothing else, it's the same result. It just took 3 seconds longer. So I'd be careful overusing the chains, especially when the pallet's already broken. It's a really good deterrent when they're at a loop or something, but if there's no loop, then there's no need. Now, when it comes to spawning the chains and a survivor's running, here is kind of my tips for best practices. All right. If a survivor is running out here, we'll make the survivor blue. So say the survivor's out here and you, the killer, are back here and you're trying to send your portal. The best way to send your portal, because you know when you're holding the button, you see the portal go out. You want to send the portal right underneath the survivor, right? So if the survivor is here and you're here, say Pinhead's holding his hand out, you want to send the portal to about here. Right, because then the portal spawns right under the survivor and you immediately click him, like you immediately just click the button, right? And if you immediately just click the button, it'll instantly snare them. Because the thing about Pinhead is when he's holding his hand out and then once the portal spawns, survivors get to keep running, but he's just standing still. So you want to send the portal and hit them with the chain in like a second flat or a second and a half. You want to waste no time, right? And so you send the portal out right where the survivor's standing. This is typically when they're just running out in the open like this, so that the portal spawns and you hit M1, it sends the chain, and it hits like instantly, right? If you could do that, this is gold, right? So practice that a little bit. It's almost like if you were to nurse blink right on top of survivor. That's what you would like to try to do in this case, right? But it's most applicable when they're out in the open. Otherwise, if you do whiff, then they've made more distance and you've wasted a lot of time. So, again, it takes a lot of practice. He is not an easy killer to play. This is really good, by the way. You didn't get distracted by somebody who wasn't injured, right? You're going for the bird in the hand is, 2 in the bush kind of thing. Again, you gave up your strongest kind of point here. This is your strongest area. You really want to stand. This is such a short loop, right? Such a short loop. You want to stand right here, send the portal and chain her, and then go after her, right? Instead of following her around and chaining her while she's at the pallet. Because the survivor that's chained at the pallet can still just throw the pallet, and then they can vault it. Could they still get hit? Yes, but they're still throwing the pallet, and there's still a chance they may outsmart you. So you want to stand inside of the pallet, and that's what's going to give you your hit at these short loops every single time. Even at the car, if she was on the car side, it would be the same thing. And we'll show some examples of that on screen. Ooh, she didn't throw it. She actually keeps playing the pallet. Very smart. Very, very smart. That's a good hit. That's a good hit. See what I mean? See what I mean? You just can go all the way around the outside edge. Oh, they wanted to take a hit. That's exactly what I meant. You see how easy it is for you to chain them and walk around? That's exactly what you want to do. You just don't want to do it when the pallet's down per se. You want to do it like when she's out here and you're right here. Because then the pallet's not down. You don't have to break it. You don't have to worry about it. Because there's a chance she almost got away with that dead hard. So really, really good chain. Superb chain right there. Really well played. Surge proc, which is good. Good slug. Don't overslug, but definitely get the injury on this girl. I wouldn't overplay the chain. I wouldn't overplay the chain. You could have just M1 there, which is whatever. But you could have just M1'd. She's inside the chain link fence. Yeah. There you go. Good job. Good stuff. Surge is going off, deadlock's procced, and one person's getting the box. So, like, gens are still very slowed down. And, yeah, breaking this. So, 2 hooks, 2 gens. It's not a bad pacing, considering gens could be going much quicker. I wouldn't necessarily run to the other side of the map to see where people are. I'm a little bit nervous about their positioning. But we'll see. Yeah. That's why the problem with this map is, like, you can't, in a lot of cases around the main building, you can't see where survivors are just by looking at the gens or anything. So you walk all the way over there and then you get nothing for it. It's 15 seconds wasted. So what I would have done if I were you is it's not a 3-gen really, but you've blocked off. There's a gen behind you, there's a gen here, and there's a gen back there. Your best bet is to control this whole segment of the map instead of going out here or going all the way out there. I would have probably gone this way to see if this gen's got progress, and if they don't, neat, whatever, right? But the risk you run is, like, if you go all the way out there, then they pop a gen, then they get the unhook. It's just, right now, Batham's got such a weird gen spread pretty consistently for Killer. I think it would have been better to control these. No guarantees that anything's going to work out well, but I think you're trying to... I'm not the biggest fan of, like, the camping the hook thing right now. Like, you could be pressuring other people. Undoubtedly, yes, is this a good strategy? But, like, do you need it? No. You know, I don't think you needed to do this. And this, like, I try to discourage this anytime I can. A lot of people are going to be like, camping's like a legitimate strategy. Like, you weren't losing, like, the game that bad, really. And like, if you were, it's your own mistakes, right? So I think a lot of people camp because they make tons of mistakes and they get rewarded by doing so. I don't know that I would have done this. Would the game maybe would you maybe have lost? Potentially, but maybe that's something that you need to figure out in terms of, like, the mistakes you're making instead of, like, making a ton of mistakes and then camping and then being like, oh, I played well, you know? Because I'm not seeing that these survivors are like high MMR, Swift Team, SEAL Team 6 type stuff, right? I know a lot of people always say, I go against the best Swifts. These guys aren't that good, really, in terms of survivors. And she still got unhooked. Second surge proc. That's not a good plan. This Meg is already injured here. The better option is to hit this Meg and let her slug, because if she has DS, you're going to eat that DS, right? If she had borrowed time, you'd have eaten that borrowed time. It would have been better to down the other Meg and make it a fair trade. Let's see what happens, though. She didn't have DS. That risk, you could make an argument like, oh, it worked out. I wouldn't do that ever. I think that is a bad idea 90% of the time. One, I wouldn't probably have camped that much unless it was 1 gen and 1 hook. But even then, like, that game is gone. You're probably not winning that match. But second, I would have hit the Meg that was doing the unhooking and left this other girl to go. Because the risk of her having borrowed time, the risk of her, like, getting hit and boosting away. And even if she had borrowed time and you chased her down, she could have D-strike and then you've wasted 40 seconds on nothing. That risk just isn't worth it, and you got to get better at mitigating that risk and thinking ahead. Not a fan of this stuff. I'm going to put my personal opinion. I am not a fan of the camp tunnel kind of, like, I think that was... it's not so much about honor, but I think that gameplay is you trying to make up for... not really knowing what to do, what not to do, stuff like that, which is, it's fine to not know, but it sucks to punish a survivor and just stand right in front of them because you weren't sure what you were doing. She dropped down, I think. Yeah, she's slow vaulted. Yep. So I would pay attention a little bit more to just, like, listening in general. You could kind of hear her just fall out, like, vault. Right there. Yeah. There's blood in front of the window. You heard her drop. You heard her footsteps. I would pay a little bit more attention to just headset. If you don't have a headset, I'd grab a headset. And just get used to that stuff and listening for it. Not a bad idea to check for that, but also you could have just like walked up. I think you have to be careful with using the portal for recon because survivors can kind of like run early now, you know, especially if they got sprint burst. So Claudette, who's never been hooked, nobody else is even remotely worried because nobody else has been hooked. Again, you don't need your chains that close. You would have been fine not using your chains there. It would have been the same thing. I would back out and drop down, maybe. All right, it works out. In this case, always remember in Batum main building is you can always just back up, right? So like right here, as she's going down the stairs, like you've pressured her around, right? So you're like, oh, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Right here, I would have backed up and dropped down. Probably. Maybe that would be a mistake. I don't know. It's hard to say, but. That's a basement hook. My sincere hope is that you're not going to just camp out basement because you'll lose your remaining gens in doing that. I think that's an awful idea. When there are 3 survivors left, that's when Pinhead's strongest because one person's on hook. Ideally, you would find and chase a second person, and then the third person has to get to the box. You really want to keep that pressure up as much as you can. The Meg healed, so she wasn't really on a gen. So it's kind of time to figure out where survivors are. That's decent recon, because it's hard to see. A gen just got completed. That's the silent gen bug that's happening. The next to last gen is always silent. See, like, you camped out the Meg and you did all that stuff, but you still have really nothing to show for it besides one death, right? Whereas I think if you can down survivors faster, find a second survivor, because like the way you want to play DBD, right? Like the ideal way for it to go for a killer is like, all right, you put one person on the hook, right? That's supposed to be a hook. You put one person on a hook, and then you immediately get in chase with like a second person, and then one person has to go and unhook the first person, which means only one person is on a gen. Like this is your gen runner. And if you could do that, right, like then the person you're chasing, they get put on the hook, and then somebody else will have to go get them off the hook, and then you'll be chasing somebody else. The idea is to always keep like one person on the hook most of the time, right? Like with like 30-second gaps in between. But like the camping and stuff like that, it's costing you because you're not getting anything done. Like, I sincerely believe that these survivors, you could have 4K'd this a lot easier than just camping. And I gotta discourage it as often as I can. Because camping is, like I said, camping is a tactic people use to make up for the fact that they didn't play things correctly. In some cases, yeah, like a 4-man Swift comes in, but... Yeah, see, like, this is... Yeah, you could have just hooked the Meg. And it's costing you blood points, too, if we're really being honest. Because if you hook the Meg, right... You hook her, that would be her first hook. And then, say you chase the ace, and you get him a hook. Like, you're not maximizing hooks. It's kind of like you're just like, I got a 4K no matter what. Instead of being like, oh, I got to... Like, you... I don't know. There are a lot of games where you know, 3 people escape, but I got 9 hooks, so I feel fine. You know, I feel cool with that. Or yeah, 3 people escape, 9 hooks. I think in this case, you're trying to go for the ace. This is really a weird, unfortunate situation. Oh, no, you're waiting out borrowed time. I hope she DS's you. I'm rooting against you at this point. Yeah, people should run DS more often. Yeah, this isn't fun. Stop doing this. Instead of doing this, I would play better, you know? And just make more mistakes and be okay with making mistakes. Because this is not really fun for the other team. It's not the Claudette's fault that Ace didn't have borrow time, right? But it's your fault that you chose to tunnel after, like, kind of wasting a lot of the early game. So I don't want to harp on it too much. I think you could be better than this. I don't think you need to do any of this. I certainly don't, and I am fairly successful with it in most of my games, right? So yeah, this is not fun. I know a lot of the times people want to be like, oh, survivors are so toxic, but kind of when they get camped out on hook from stage 1 to stage 2, and then they get tunneled and immediately put back on hook, that's frustrating. That's a scenario that's not enjoyable. And I think killers should work on empathizing with that. Now, that's not to say that, like, you know, banging out 4 gens in 2 minutes is fun for killer either, right? But I think there's something in the fact that the community overemphasizes the importance of, like, all or nothing. You know, I got a 4K, or I'm bad at the game, or something like that. There's a whole, like, meta dialogue to be had about that, but this is pre-patch, so that because the hatch is already spawned. Yeah, you don't need to use your chains there. Again, yeah, you could just M1. He actually got away from you somehow. Yeah, you could just M1. You don't need to use your chains at point blank range. There's literally no benefit, except there's a chance that you miss, and then you have to chase for a lot longer. So no need to use your chains at point blank range, really, I would say. Yeah, you can't really play around this pallet, I don't think. He'll just slow vault the window. Oh, no. Oh, he goofed that. He literally looked at you and vaulted into you. Yeah, that's on him then. I suspect we're probably going to camp him out too, yeah? So at this point, you've only gotten like 4 hooks? 5 hooks? I'm not the biggest fan of the play style at all. I gotta try to denounce it where I can. Yeah, it's a video game. You know, people shouldn't take it serious and shouldn't people shouldn't hurl insults at each other. But I understand and I empathize deeply with the frustration of just not getting to really play the game fully. Especially when I feel like the strategy being used is used as a means to make up for your own mistakes. That was a good mind game. Or not mind game, but prediction. It was a decent prediction. I'm surprised you didn't go for the ace, to be honest with you. You're preventing the flashlight. It's clear that you know, like, how to play killer to some varying degree of success. It's just maybe playing Pinhead is eluding you a little bit. So, yeah, I think that this is probably just going to sort of be a little bit of a camp festival until we find him. Maybe we're walking away here. No, yeah, we walked away. Okay. And I understand as killers, sometimes games get away from you and just bad thing after bad thing happens, and you know, you got to camp or something to get like one person dead and just to weaken the team. But I think the consistent sort of constant camping, I feel like this is maybe a habit that you do more often than I'm able to see, and I would deeply encourage you to reassess and reevaluate and see that if camping is something that you're doing because you're not performing as well as you could. You know, I don't want to tell you how to play, but I think if you're trying to get better, I think dropping those habits and taking an L was better motivation than not. And I'd be willing to bet, I think we're probably going to get a Ruthless Killer award after this instead of like Merciless or, which is better than Brutal, but the thing we have to remember is that, like, this is why survivors, like, if we complain about survivor builds, right? If we complain like, oh, they're just always running dead hard BTDS. This is kind of why, isn't it, right? It's because you never know as a survivor when you're going to run into a situation like this where the killer will actually, like, tunnel you or camp you out, right? So, it's a 3K. Ruthless Killer. Yeah. So, I think, you know, I think the big thing we gotta like pay attention to is like as killers, like a lot of people complain, oh, it's always you know dead hard BT DS, and 2 people had BT. It's actually ironic because nobody ever got BT, like nobody had BT proc on them. But you know, the big thing that's important is like if killers are gonna complain that survivors always run dead hard BT DS, then killers should not give them like de-incentivize that process, right? I think you played Pinhead mostly. I think you're definitely trying to work on that stuff. I think you're trying to understand how to play Pinhead. But I think ultimately you're camping and tunneling survivors out of the game to make up for mistakes you're making. And I think a lot of people do that. And then I think a lot of people justify it by saying, well, it's a game, I can play however I want. So if you are submitting gameplay to me for review, I think the biggest thing you can do to help yourself is to take an L, take a loss, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're camping, tunneling, getting a 3 or 4K, I don't think that maybe your brain is like actively, like I think a lot of times people are gonna take a 3 or 4K because they like sort of camped a bit and they're gonna go like, well, I played pretty well. I think I don't need to do this stuff. A lot of players don't need to camp and tunnel and things like that. And yeah, you're going to lose some games if you don't, and that's fine. It's okay to lose. I don't think we need to white knuckle constantly 3 and 4K. You could have played this better. There's a lot of ways I broke that down. All in all, thank you for submitting. I appreciate it. I do not really condone the play style. It has nothing to do with you as a person. I'm not going to make a judgment about you as a person. I don't think you're scummy, slimy, or otherwise. I think there are valid reasons why people think they need to do this. I'm here to tell you, I don't think you need to do this, okay? That being said, thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this. Did you make it this far in the video? If you made it this far in the video, place an emoji in your comment, all right? Thank you guys for being here. I'll be praying to the entity to see you in the next one. If you guys want to submit some gameplay, be sure you do, all right?